Buongiorno, and welcome to another exciting edition of Meet Your Neighbor. My name is Ron Falconi. I live here in the city of Brunswick, Ohio. Yes, Brunswick, one of the top 10 towns in America for families, according to Family Circle magazine, and one of the top 25 towns in America for an affordable home, according to CNN Money. I live here with my family in the Fairway subdivision of our great city, and I had an idea back in the fall of 2006 where I wanted to invite local politicians and business people to come on down to the studio so all of you can meet your neighbor. We have two great guests today. Our guests are Matt Miller. He is a candidate for the United States Congress in the 16th District, yes. And his wife, Miss Ohio 2006, Melanie Murphy Miller. Yes. Guys, welcome to the studios. How are you?
Good to be here.
Thank you so
Very
much.
much so.
Thanks for the opportunity.
Oh, it's my honor. Hey, Matt, can you tell us? I guess probably the first question I want to know is why? Why do you want to run for Congress?
It's a good question, and especially at the present time when so many people are frustrated with what's happening in Washington, and quite honestly, at a time when you see so many of our current leaders in Washington deciding to retire because they're fed up with the business and the way they do business there in Washington. A lot of people ask me, Matt, why wouldn't you run for the State House or run for Columbus, Sure. Because you do that well. After all, you have a background in local government, served as a county commissioner, worked for the Ohio Department of Transportation, so why Washington? But I'll tell you, it's very clear to me that the issues that we are debating in Washington today are not just simple policy issues,
Okay.
They are principles. If you take a look at the history of the country, you'll see that over and over again, politicians are always tinkering with policy, making a little changes here to the tax code, making the welfare policy a little different here, and so on. That continually happens all throughout history. But there are those times in history where our leaders start playing around with the very principles on which the nation is built.
Sure.
And I think when you take a look at what's happening right now in Washington, you see a group of leaders who are no longer just tinkering with the system. They're trying to change the entire system and the role that the government will play in our daily lives. Whether it's you and I as individuals or whether it's our businesses, they're changing the scope and magnitude of our government. And quite honestly, I believe in many instances, they're beginning to discard the very free market principles that have allowed us to become the successful nation that we've become over the last several hundred years.
I agree.
So I think that the main reason why I am running for the U.S. Congress is because I believe that we've got to stand up and defend those timeless principles that have made us the economic powerhouse that we've become. Individual freedom, personal responsibility, hard work, those are at the core of who we are as a people. And we cannot expect to substitute the government, more government interaction in our daily lives, and have the same result that we've experienced over the last centuries.
Absolutely. Matt, how did you get involved in politics?
It's a good question. In fact, a lot of people, I think when they see that I was involved fairly young, I was actually, elected a county commissioner in Ashland County at age 22.
Wow. Okay.
And when people see that, I think they automatically think, well, he must have come from a political family or someone who had money, as my family must have had a name or had money or been involved in politics. The truth of the matter is, that was the last thing that was the case with my family. My family wasn't at all involved in politics. And in fact, neither of my parents were even registered to vote when I first ran for commissioner. My mom registered just in time to vote for me, but my dad still hasn't registered because he doesn't trust the politicians. Now, the good news is he did contribute to my campaign the last time, so I know his heart's in the right place. But I'll tell you what, coming through high school, I actually had a biology teacher, of all teachers, set up an independent study for me to sit in. Biology teacher. I'd finished all the coursework and had too many study halls, and so the biology teacher made arrangements for me to attend the county commissioners meetings each week. And at the end of the week, of course, I was supposed to attend the meetings, sit in the back, listen to what they had to say, and at the end of the week, write a report about what they did and so on. Pretty basic. Well, I did that for about 6 months. And the truth is, as I was wrapping up my time at the county commissioner's office, observing their actions and activities, I began to think, now, if I was a county commissioner, I wouldn't have done that just the way they did it. Or if I were a county commissioner, I would have done a little bit more homework than what I just saw them do. And so by the time I was wrapping up my senior year of high school, I decided, you know what, I'm going to run for county commissioner. And I set off at age 18. I actually raised $900, asked 9 of my teachers for $100, and they gave it to me. And printed up my yard signs, printed up my brochures, and started going door to door.
Wow.
And on election night, when it was all said and done, I actually ended up losing by about 350 votes.
Oh.
Now, as a candidate, and of course you're a candidate, you've been a candidate before, I have to tell you, I was just so excited not to lose by an embarrassing number of votes that I was very thrilled with the outcome. But it worked out well because then I went off to Ashland University, where I was fortunate enough to be an Ashbrook Scholar.
Oh, okay.
The Ashbrook program, if you're not familiar with it, is actually a program designed to teach American history and politics and political thought using not textbooks, but using the actual text. The letters our founding fathers were writing back and forth to one another. Reading about the Declaration of Independence, not based on someone of our modern era's opinion and interpretation of the Declaration of Independence, but instead reading the letters that they were writing back and forth, the signers of the Declaration of Independence. So it was an outstanding program. And of course graduated from Ashland University with a degree in marketing, business affairs, and public communications. And the year I graduated, I decided to run for county commissioner once again. At that time, I was actually at the Ohio Department of Transportation as their public communications officer, helping communities with their infrastructure needs, but decided to run for commissioner again. Ran against the same gentleman, and that night, on election night, instead of losing by 350 votes, actually won by over 8,000.
Wow, that's impressive.
Well, I was certainly honored by the fact that the community and the county residents were willing to support me at that level. And the good news is, after I'd worked for them for 4 years as a county commissioner, when it came time for re-election, it was the first time, and I believe I was told about 25 years, since a commissioner went uncontested. Didn't have a primary opponent or a general election opponent, and so was able to serve a second term. And it's county commissioner is a wonderful opportunity for public service. And I say that because it truly is where the rubber meets the road. All of those great ideas that our politicians come up with in Columbus, all of those great ideas and programs that our politicians in Washington design that they think will meet our needs back home, as a county commissioner, you're charged with carrying them out in your county. And that's a great experience for a person that's interested in public service, because you begin to see then which programs work and accomplish the goals and objectives they were designed to accomplish,
and which don't.
And which ones don't. Which ones actually stifle your ability to meet the needs of your community. So I was honored to have that chance to be a county commissioner, and I think it's prepared me well now as I do embark on this campaign for the United States Congress.
You know, Matt, the city of Brunswick, Brunswick Hills, we're in the 13th congressional district, so this is not your district. Where is the 16th? What areas does that? What areas does the 16th congressional district encompass?
The 16th district actually.
That's in the southern part of the county,
That's right. That's right. Covers 4 counties in total: all of Stark County, all of Wayne County, most of Ashland County, and like you say, the southern portion of Medina County. It's hard to describe it to someone because you almost have to look at the map, because the line is pretty wavy there, but it is north of the city of Medina but south of the city of Brunswick. So somewhere in there, you'd have to look at the map and make sure you fall in the right district, but it's a great district, and there's a lot of diversity in this district, but there are also a lot of similarities, especially out here in Medina, in Wayne, and in Ashland. Our communities have sort of the same feel about them, the same priorities, and the same genuine caring for one another. And quite honestly, I'm not sure if your viewers remember or not, but I did run in the Republican primary for this congressional seat in 2008.
2 years ago, yes.
Exactly. And
I saw you on the campaign trail every now and then.
That's right. That's right. And the great thing about that was not only did the people in Ashland support me, it was, I believe, 80-some% of the vote in Ashland, 3-1, but the people in Medina almost supported me 2-1 as well, and as well as in Wayne County. And I just came up a little short there in Stark, and hopefully this time we can make up the difference.
Hey, Matt, what do you see as some of the big issues facing the 16th district right now?
I'll tell you what, I think that the issue that is on everyone's minds, and quite honestly, it's not limited to just here in the 16th district, it's all across the state of Ohio and all across our nation, is job creation.
Sure.
More and more men and women are finding themselves at the end of the day learning from their boss or supervisor that they're not going to have employment much longer. And the reality is, let's face it, whether it's right or wrong, and whether or not it's because of poor management or good management, many of us are living paycheck to paycheck. And if we lose our job, we're 1 month away from also losing our home, falling behind on our car payments, and not being able to make our utilities. And so job creation is absolutely essential as we move forward here in the 16th District, but all across the country. And to me, quite honestly, one of the greatest factors that we have to address if we're serious about job creation is our federal government spending, the deficit spending, and the national debt. The reality is those do have an impact on job creation, and I'll tell you how.
Okay.
As I'm out and about in this district, traveling across the communities, throughout the communities, and meeting with different business owners, touring various manufacturing facilities, over and over again, I'm hearing company owners tell me this: Matt, we will adapt and we'll get through this recession. We can get through it. We're making the changes necessary to do so. But the challenge is, we actually could use 3 or 4 more new employees. We could hire additional people because we have the work for them. The problem is, we're not about to hire someone right now when we can see that based on the government spending, the writing's on the wall. Soon our government leaders are going to have to raise our taxes to cover these deficits and these debts.
Yes.
And so we're not about to play with someone's life, hire them, and then 6 months find out that we can't afford to keep them and let them go. It's interesting because as I've been out and about, I've also learned that in many of instances, the temporary service agencies, the temp agencies, they actually are doing very well these days. And why are they doing well? Because of exactly what I said. Companies are turning to those services rather than hiring someone themselves because they're afraid they'll have to lay them off.
Sure.
And so we absolutely have to get our government spending, government regulation, and deficits under control if we're serious about job creation.
That's on the home front. Matt, what about internationally? What problems or opportunities do you see internationally for the United States right now?
Well, I'll tell you what, I think if you were to hear me when I'm out and about talking to various groups and so on, I cite as one of the major issues that we have to address is national security.
Sure.
And by national security, I'm talking about we need to invest in the U.S. military and improve our weapons technology and our weapons systems. The reality is our battle to protect our God-given freedoms, it's not going to stop in Iraq. It's not going to stop in Afghanistan. All you have to do is take a look around the globe and you will see that more and more nations now, rogue nations, are starting to rattle their swords against the U.S. And quite honestly, I believe the reason why that is because they're starting to take a look at America's economic situation. They're seeing that we've got nations such as China that owns, what, $800 billion of our debt. We're seeing that they watched us come through a financial crisis here in the last year or so, and many instances they're beginning to doubt the stability of the economic situation here in the U.S. Not only that, but they're also seeing our troops spread so many places across the globe. They're seeing us cut our spending in many instances in weapons research and technology, and now they're starting to wonder, is America as strong as we perceive her to be? They're starting to push the envelope and test the limits to see, is America the powerhouse that she once was? Because let's face it, after the Cold War, the fall of the Soviet Empire, we went through a period of relative peace for some time there. And yes, you always have conflicts in different parts of the globe, and you're always going to have acts of terror. But for the most part, things were pretty stable around the globe. And I think in many instances it's because after the Cold War, the U.S. emerged as the world's remaining superpower.
True.
Now, the further we get away, as our economic situation meets many challenges, as we begin to spread our troops abroad in many places, and as, quite honestly, as our foreign leaders take a look at the U.S. and see how divided we are as a people politically, now you see them pushing the envelope, testing the limits. Look at North Korea, look at China, look at Iran. You have people that are going blatantly against the best interest of the global community as well as the U.S.,
Yes.
and they're not afraid to do it because they're testing us to see if America is as strong as she once
Absolutely.
was. And let's face it, the reason we have the United States federal government, first and foremost, is to provide us with a national defense. And so I believe we have to address that as we move forward here in the coming decade.
Matt, say you win the primary in May and you win the general election in November. What are the top 3 things you would do as a United States Congressman from the 16th District?
Well, and of course we've touched on a couple of them. I will tell you my top 3 priorities would be, number 1, national security.
Sure.
Improving the U.S. military, strengthening the U.S. military, and investing in our troops and in our weapon systems. Number 2, we must address the issues of economic security, and we have to address the government spending. The government spending free-for-all, more or less, is what it amounts to. When you consider that, like I say, there's an old proverb that says the borrower will be slave to the lender. Let's face it, in many instances, those nations that are funding our deficits are nations that don't necessarily have the best interest of the U.S. at heart.
Sure.
China is a prime example. Here we are slowly mortgaging our country and our country's future to foreign nations that don't necessarily have the best interest of America at hand. We must curb our government spending. We simply cannot tax our people at a level to keep up with the spending that's taking place, nor should we. Because if our elected officials do in fact embark in that direction and try to meet the needs of our economy by taxing us, then we're going to drive ourselves so deeply into a hole it will be hard to get out of. That's very negative, and I apologize for even saying that, but that's the reality.
Sure.
Is. And I think,
you're right.
Democrats and Republicans alike hopefully are starting to see that increasing our people's taxes at a time when there are so many without work, this is not the thing to do to get our country on the right track. And third, national security, economic security, and we've also got to be concerned with cultural security. And by cultural security, I'm referring to things that deal with decency, honesty, integrity, personal responsibility, taking care of oneself, doing the right thing. These are things that some might consider matters of the heart. Things like respecting life from the moment of conception until natural death, an important issue to many of our citizens.
Sure.
Also things like protecting the sanctity of marriage. Marriage was designed originally to be with a man and a woman, and I think many of our residents across Northeast Ohio and across the country still believe that it is a creation of God that we need to protect. And so those issues also have to be addressed as we go forward in the next decade, because all of these components, national security, economic security, and cultural security, we have to be right in each of those areas in order to be a successful and prosperous nation.
Absolutely.
And from the birth of our nation until today, we've often remained true in each of those areas, and that's why we've become the successful nation in the basically what did Abraham Lincoln say? The last best hope for all mankind. But we don't want to lose that status. We want to continue to be a beacon of hope for the world, and we've got to address those 3 issues if we're going to do that.
Matt, I was wondering, where do you live?
I actually live in the city of Ashland.
Oh.
I grew up in Jeromesville, a small rural community, and in fact there were cornfields on both sides of my home. Unlike Melanie, who grew up here in Brook Park, she had a little different setting to emerge from, but now I live in the city of Ashland in Ashland County.
Okay.
Attend church in Wayne County, actually. That's where Melanie and I met, and
Well,
honored to be here in Northeast Ohio.
let's get into that. Melanie, I know you've been sitting here patiently
Yes,
all
I
this
have.
time. Melanie,
Thank you for listening, honey.
Melanie, how did you meet Matt?
Well, it's funny, when I was Miss Ohio in 2006, one of my very first appearances was at a church.
Okay.
And there was a gentleman who was a big sponsor, one of the managers of Applebee's. They're a big supporter of Miss Ohio, and
Okay.
we got to know each other quite a bit, and he invited me to come to his church, which happened to be Matt's church as well.
Okay.
And so I went, and he asked me to give my testimony, how I accepted Jesus Christ as my Savior, and asked if I would sing as well.
Oh, wow.
And so I did, and then afterwards, you could see the proposal on that screen right now.
I think that Matt proposed to you. Was it after you won or before?
It
sorry,
was after I won. Yep. So we met
Okay.
at that church, and the rest was history after that. And then the following year, Miss Ohio was a dream of mine.
Wow.
I've been working towards it since I was a little girl. Won the title of Miss Brook Park when I was 16, and
Okay.
that's just really what made me want to keep going. Watch Miss America since I've been a little girl, but Matt really just topped every fairy tale that I could have ever imagined. The night that I gave up my title, he actually, after I was giving my farewell speech, it was very emotional and very
imagine.
difficult thing to do, and I was doing my final walk, and all of a sudden I heard a very special song playing, and then all of a sudden Matt walks out in the aisle, there's a spotlight on him, and he walks up the runway, and
that must have just
it
hit
was
you.
just amazing. It was just amazing because I was having, and I think Matt knew leading up to that, it was a very difficult night for me, that whole night. And then to top that off, wow, just totally wiped away my tears, and I was just screaming for joy because it was a wonderful ending to an incredible year.
I was wondering, so when you're Miss Ohio, I assume you traveled all over the state.
Yes, it actually, most people don't know, it's a full-time job.
Oh, it's a full-time job.
Miss Ohio is a full-time
Okay.
job, so I gave up the year of school to travel to travel throughout the entire state of Ohio, spoke to many schools, focused a lot on the 5th grade to 9th grade area was really the main groups, and then did parades and special events, did a lot of things for our veterans, did a lot of Veterans Day events, and just meeting and greeting at the veterans hospitals, and it just is so, what an incredible experience to be Miss Ohio. I just have to say it was pretty neat. And then in turn, the Miss Ohio, Miss America system is the largest scholarship provider for young women in the world.
Oh, yeah. So, no, as Miss Ohio, you went to Miss America and not Miss USA?
That's right, Miss America. That's right. I'm glad you got that right. Everyone gets that confused. But because of the program, I was able to pay for my entire college education at Cleveland State University.
Wonderful.
So it gives over $45 million in scholarships to young women in the United States.
Can you explain your educational background? You said you went to CSU. What did you major in there?
I did. I actually majored in digital media and film production with a minor in journalism.
Oh,
so
wow.
I wanted to get broadcast journalism. We didn't have a
Okay.
degree for that, but got a little bit of everything. So.
Melanie, we joked off camera here. I know that you are a TV host. As you know, I just do this kind of like for fun, but you're the real deal here.
No, not at all.
Can you explain how you became a TV host and where do you work?
I will tell you what, I first got the opportunity actually at the Time Warner Studios, not in this studio in particular, but in the Cleveland studios.
Okay.
My freshman year in college, I was approached by a gentleman who has a show called Another Look at the Movies. And so I actually came on board reviewing movies and started there, and so that's where I got my start, was in the Time Warner Studios.
Oh, wow.
And then from there, actually, Miss Ohio opened a lot of doors for me. It really did. And so the year I was Miss Ohio, I was a guest on the Jerry Lewis Muscular Dystrophy Telethon, Labor Day weekend, and came on as a guest. And then the next year, the female host left. She got another job opportunity, so they were looking for a female host. And so it just happened. My name happened to be dropped in some meeting, and asked me to come in to meet with the other host to see how we would click. And I'm not sure if you know Ronnie Duncan. He used to be the voice of the Cavs. Well, him and I hit it off great because we knew each other too. Before I was Miss Ohio, I danced for the Cavaliers, but so we hit it off, and really that was kind of what opened the door for me. Right now,
great.
I work for WBNX the CW on a part-time basis, hosting the show called Better Cleveland.
Yes.
And it's really a positive show, informational. The content's based from Better Homes and Gardens, Ladies Home Journal. So we do a lot of helpful tips on awareness of diabetes, different causes, beauty tips, really pretty much anything. So it's really so much fun.
That's good. Hey, guys, for every guest I have on the show, I like to play a game of fill in the blank.
All right.
Okay, so either one of you. When I was a child, I blank.
Acted like a child. And now that I'm a man, I act like a man. At least I try to.
That's a tough one.
What about this one? The person that I admire most is
My mom.
blank. Your mom?
Definitely.
Why your mom?
She is just, she's been such a good example. I think she's just, she is just such a strong woman, always one that is just selfless, always putting others before herself, always trying to meet others' needs before her own. And so I think she's been
Oh, that's
such a great
wonderful.
example.
Wonderful. The one place I want to travel to is blank?
Hungry.
That's a good one. Yeah,
I would
you
say
need to
hungry.
explain that too.
Well, my
hungry?
grandparents are from, actually, my mom was the only sibling that was born in the United States. My aunts and uncles and my grandparents are from Hungary. And so I know I have a lot of relatives in Hungary, and I think it would be pretty neat to visit
nice.
and to meet my extended family.
And I will be glad to join Melanie.
Oh, yes. Oh, I love traveling myself.
Yes,
So.
wonderful.
Can you guys give any neighborly advice to people who are watching on the internet right now?
Well, I think the bottom line is that if we all commit ourselves to loving our neighbors as ourselves and to taking care of one another and treating each other how we would want to be treated, if we ever are completely successful at implementing that in our lives and in our communities, let's face it, this will be an even more extraordinary place to live in Northeast Ohio.
Fantastic. Matt Miller, candidate for the United States Congress, 16th District, and Melanie Murphy Miller, for Miss Ohio 2006. Thank you guys for coming down to the studios today.
Thank you for having us.
Really appreciate
you
it.
very much.
It's been an honor for me.
You know, Ron, too, I might mention that we do have a website in this campaign, mattmillerforcongress.com.
Okay.
And if anyone wants to log on and take a look at, learn more about both Melanie and I and where I stand on the issues and what we hope to do if we do get the opportunity to represent Northeast Ohio and Washington, that's the place to find out.
Okay.
Also, anyone is welcome to give me a call. I do have, I'll give my home phone number, 419-281-9468. That's also on the front page of our website, so anyone who wants to have a personal conversation, just give me a call, because we're certainly, that will be one of our priorities if elected, will be to be accessible to everyone, and hopefully maybe we can come back on your show someday to do that.
Hopefully. Thank you guys very much for coming down to the
Ron.
studio.
Thank you, Ron.
My name is Ron Falconi. I'm the host of Meet Your Neighbor. Wanted to thank Matt Miller and his wife, Melanie Murphy Miller, for coming down to the studios today. Hey, everyone out there, I just want you all to go out and meet your neighbor. My name is Ron Falconi. I'm signing off. Arrivederci.